Okay, I was gonna wait until people showed up, but I'm gonna go ahead and kind of show. I'm not gonna actually do it. This is gonna be a series more likely. But I was asked on Facebook by a friend of mine on how I did my stacks. If you're friends with me on Facebook, you know what I'm talking about by stacks. So I'll go ahead. Right now, this one, I'm gonna just do on the stuff I used and kind of walk you through how I did it. But I already got one complete. I did octagon, bullhorn, exhaust, and it is actually hollow from here all the way to the bottom. I capped it off because something I'm going through. So the first thing I did, well, I'll get to it. You'll need some, obviously. Well, this is the first kind of a series I've done, so kind of bear with me. If someone shows up, I'll see you. But you'll need to kind of draw up what you wanted. With mine, I went the same height as the kit exhaust. With this particular exhaust stack I'm doing is going on the Kenworth W900. So that's the way it's gonna sit on there. Turned out just a quarter. So that's just to show. But I took the kit exhaust and measured from the bottom of the elbow to the height of, probably not gonna, so I came up with this from the bottom, then right across, right where that peak is, was the top of the exhaust stack. I knew I kind of wanted to do the octagon, so I was just, as you've seen, I just kind of drew it up. But so you need your choice of styrene strip. 3 of them in a full length. So you'll need the material, nippers, for they'll be a later on use. I got one of these that works really handy. As you can see, that comes in real handy for this, because you're working with a lot of angles. A handy dandy knife, circle template, and some styrene goo. You don't really need to use it, but you'll want something that somewhat melts that plastic, so you get a good bond in it. I used that, cut up some styrene stock, cut it up, dropped it in there a couple days. Hey Jennifer, a couple days it melted down, and added some acrylic paint. So that's what I use, kind of strengthen it up and whatnot. But so after I did that, first thing you'd want to do, styrene. So in other words, you want to figure out the angle you're going with. And once you figure out that angle, you'd want to cut it. You'd want to make 2 of them, just so you could start your build off. This is the way I did it. A little scrap piece, figured out the angle I wanted, and that was just a matter of, because if you get the angle pretty close and whatnot, and you start building off it, and it say comes out kind of oblong or whatnot, that's where your circle template comes in play. This exhaust is 11/32 wide, and as you can see, it goes right. So that's just kind of, so once you start getting your base done, well, once you start getting it going, let's see. So I'm just gonna show you. So no, I won't. So you'd run glue down one end. You don't have to worry about the second side, and you would want to put them just like that. It's gonna focus on my hand, but butt them up together. I went in and I took a little dab of glue right on the seam, kind of like a spot weld in real life, in a 1-1 on metal. You'd put spot weld, just kind of hold it there, then go back and lay your bead down. That's what I did on this, and I did that as I went around. Then as I was going around, I'd go down the whole seam on the inside, the whole length of it. And then I would get some right on the edge, the leading edge, put them together, start forming around. You get to your last one, you'd run it on both sides. You'd run it on both sides and just kind of fit it in there. And this one isn't by far perfect, but it's damn good for the first one I've done. And like I said, there's no support, no nothing on the inside, and kind of demonstrate. So just to kind of demonstrate it. That's all the way to the bottom. So, but on that first one, I would recommend your first one, use support. Use your, figure out your angle, whatnot. I'm not gonna give you exact measurements or anything like that, because you could want them taller, you could want them wider, you could want them narrower, shorter. Like I said, these are bolt horns. You could have the cut top, you could have them just straight off mitered, you could have them Diablos. The only difference between this and Diablos between the Bullhorn and the Diablos, the only difference is one of the sides here is cut back a little further. So if you're looking at it square on, you would see the back side. You would see the back side just by looking at it on square on part of the pipe. So in other words, that straight here, you would have a bit of an angle cut off it. So there's a couple different types. That's if you're wanting Bullhorn, Diablo. Of course, it'd be kind of hard to do this with a rounded pipe. It'd be hard to get your angle, like get it where you want it to be. Because at least this, you're working with straight edges until you get to the ends. The only cuts are your ends. You're not making any cuts on the sides or anything like that. So then after you get your first, so you use that support, you'd want one on the bottom, and you'd want one somewhere in this region. If you're cutting it off like this, you don't want to go all the way up with it to the other end, because if you go all the way to the other end and you say you want to do this, now you're cutting that support out. And then cut your support back out and you'll be good. So then once you get the bottom shaped the way you want it, wait till it dries, or carefully go through and figure out where you want it, how you want your angle to be, and you cut with the razor saw. I used a miter box. Just trying to okay. As you can see, this line here transforms all the way up to this line up here. And right into the exhaust. It follows that line all the way through. So carefully cut it, because it's going to be soft, it's going to be bendable, and want to kind of flatten out, whatnot. That is fine. Take your time when you're cutting, because that's where this comes in. You'll square it off, you'll round it out, you'll true it up. Then once you get this part done, wait for a day. Let it dry out, let it cure, that way it kind of adds some strength. Then you go back in, then your front side be right here, and your back side, depending on which way you're going with it. If you're going a miter cut, do it all in one shot and call it done. But this one here, I really can't tell you what is a little over, is a little under, is about 38 degrees, or 142, somewhere right around in there. Yeah, it's either 38 degrees or 100. Kind of figure out what you want your angle, you cut it off, and kind of then you go in, so that way the width of your top one and your bottom one is the same as the width. Measure it off, square it off, figure out where it's at. Go back through and you do the same thing, and you measure it and kind of bend it to where you want it to be. it's gonna move on you and whatnot, but that's fine. If it kind of flares out just a bit square and it flares out, no biggie, because all your other ones are gonna pull it together. Once you get down to that bottom, it's gonna pull it together. And if it's kind of off and whatnot, your circle template helps. And then this, making that cut is kind of a little bit trickier, but you figure out where you want your line and how to do it. Then you make one line on your flat. Take your saw, score that, cut it out, and as you go, you want to trim it off. That way you get to where you want to be. That's the way I did it. The first one is going to be the hardest one. So once you got the first one done, the second one ain't so bad. Because as you can see, these, I have all my other pieces for the second one cut for this here. I ain't worrying about the top part yet, because you have two different top done. No, once I get the bottom done, I'll do the top part, because that'll get me the measurements I need for the second one. So as of right now, that's where I'm going to leave off with this one, just kind of explain it. The second one, I'll go ahead and I will, back to it. So before you even do your top, you want to go in with the paintbrush, paint this part flat, paint as far down flat black as you can see. Obviously you're not going to really see it clear too far down. You're only going to probably see it, it'll just be about that angle you would see into it, or a little further down, because, well, whatever. But paint the inside of it flat black, and pretty good ways down. Then you work on your top. That way you don't have to worry about trying to get in there and everything and get it covered. And then you do your top. Once you get your top, and then you go back in, then you paint the rest of it. I'm gonna add a little something to this. And then before I do the second one, the second video on this, I'm gonna finish this one off, because this one is not really 100% done. 100% done for me right now is gonna be taking this elbow off and attaching it to the bottom of this. So it'll look something like that. Yeah, it looks something like that when it's done. It's gonna be pretty small going in there, but it'll work out. And I'm gonna try something. Man, if you don't like the way the bottom of let's say here, say that small tube going in such a big exhaust, if you don't like the way it looks, you could always add a little bit more in, and could always add to it and fill it in and kind of taper it off into that pipe. That way it makes it look all one piece. But like I said, I won't do that second one. I won't do the second video to this until I have this one completely done. Not paint, just finished scratch building of it all. Because everybody knows how to sand and paint. So, till then, Twisted Clown Customs and Performance, signing, saying peace, and till then, talk to y'all later.